The children were barefoot. They stood in perfect rows, silent and trembling, their small frames dwarfed by the black armored figures looming over them. Each child's wrist bore a dull metallic band, blinking with a soft red pulse that marked them as tagged, tracked, and helpless. The room was cold, intentionally so to unsettle them. The floor, made of smooth alien alloy, reflected the blue-tinted lights above, casting ghostly silhouettes beneath each tiny figure. One girl, maybe 7 years old, blinked up at the nearest guard. Her lip quivered. The guard, 7 feet tall, insectal in posture, plates of living armor chittering softly, didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. Above, in the command chamber of the Vreth Dominion, Admiral Threx of the Empire's Extraction Authority observed the feed with clinical detachment. He leaned forward on clawed hands, mandibles twitching slightly as he studied the children like curious specimens in a lab. "They look frail," he muttered, voice filtered through a translator that gave it a metallic rasp. "How is it that such a species commands fear?" A subordinate clicked nervously. "Because they spread. Quickly. Unpredictably." Threx snorted. "Emotion-driven animals. We took 37. Out of 8 billion. This will pass." He tapped a glowing interface and began recording. The message broadcast across galactic channels, hijacking civilian feeds, even breaking through encrypted military bandwidths. Screens flickered from casual entertainment to the chilling image of Earth's children, framed by black-clad aliens, silent and wide-eyed. "This is a measured act," Threx began, his voice smooth and practiced. "The humans will return our stolen data archives and cease their advancement into restricted sectors. Non-compliance will result in irreversible conditioning of these specimens. That is all." The feed ended. On Earth, the silence that followed was not of uncertainty. It was the kind of stillness that exists seconds before an earthquake tears open the ground. In the United Earth Assembly Chamber, the transmission ended mid-sentence as General Alina Voren stood, so abruptly her chair snapped backward. Her jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the screen's last frozen frame. Her son, Liam, 9 years old, bruised and blinking back tears. Her silence was louder than any scream. Someone finally whispered, "They took children." A diplomat from Europa stammered, "They must think we'll negotiate. Offer resources, something." Alina turned to him, voice flat. "They think we're weak." President Nakamura leaned forward, eyes hard. "We've honored the accord for 3 millennia. We've surrendered advancements, dismantled weapon platforms, accepted sanctions. And for what?" No one answered. "They think our compliance is cowardice," Alina said. "They think peace is our nature. It's not. Peace was a choice, a leash." She stepped into the center of the chamber. Her voice didn't rise, but it filled every corner of the domed room. "The accord is broken. We are not prey. We are not specimens. They have taken our children. Let the galaxy remember what happens when you corner a species that once turned its own skies to ash." Silence. Then the murmurs. Agreement. Fear. Rage. By midnight, Earth had withdrawn from the accord. By dawn, old things were being remembered. In a vault buried beneath Antarctica's frozen crust, machinery long mothballed screamed back to life. Cold engines wept frost. AI constructs that had not spoken in centuries began to whisper through dark networks. Human warships, thought disarmed, opened hidden compartments and rediscovered teeth. Alina stood alone in the steel corridor of the Hades-class destroyer Alecto, her reflection barely visible in the pitted hull. Her uniform bore no insignia. She wasn't here as a general. She wasn't here as a leader. She was here as a mother. The captain approached quietly. "Target coordinates received." Hostile carrier vessel Vreth Dominion, located in orbit above unclaimed Sector 9J. Fleet rendezvous in 20 hours. Alina nodded. The captain hesitated. The children may not all be intact. Alina didn't blink. Then the galaxy will burn until they are avenged. She walked past him into the war room. Around the table, soldiers from old conflicts stood in silence. Veterans of forgotten wars, exiled commanders, ghosts in all but flesh. They had been waiting, not for a signal, but for permission. She didn't speak to them of tactics. She didn't ask for help. They took our children, she said, and they stood. In the deep void of interstellar space, the human fleet gathered in silence. Sleek ships of black steel, running dark, engines whisper quiet. Satellites scrambled alien sensors. Communications vanished in static. And with them, every assumption of human restraint. Back aboard the Vreth Dominion, Admiral Threx pored over threat analyses. Something in the human response troubled him. It wasn't the military mobilization. That was expected. It wasn't even the precision hacks disrupting border surveillance. It was the silence. No diplomatic channels opened. No pleas. No threats. Just nothing. He tapped his claw against the control panel, watching a child on screen shiver and wipe his nose with a sleeve. It wasn't supposed to escalate. Humanity was unpredictable, yes, but not suicidal. The Empire had power, history, numbers. Surely, the humans would back down. But he felt it now. Something old, something cold, a mistake. The child in the video looked up suddenly, as if hearing something distant. Across the void, hidden in the black, Earth's fleet burned toward the stars. The Vreth Dominion drifted silently above a forgotten moon, its orbit masked by gravitational static and cloaked in ion fog. Hidden, safe, or so they believed. Inside, the air was cold with efficiency. Walls pulsed with slow, organic light. Alien officers moved with mechanical precision, oblivious to the countdown that had already begun. Deep within the vessel, the children remained in containment. A long, dim corridor lined with transparent cells. No bars, no screams, just sterile quiet. Each room was identical, blank, clinical, a place meant not to hurt, but to erase. It was not torture. It was programming. Liam Voren sat in his cell, knees pulled to his chest. The metal band on his wrist blinked softly. He had stopped crying days ago. No one came when they cried, but he remembered his mother's voice. Always sharp, never cruel. A soldier's voice. One that gave orders, yes, but also promises. We don't break, Liam. That's not what humans do. He whispered the words into the dark. And across the ship, other children whispered them too. A scattered, fractured mantra. Back on Earth, in the command core of Electo, General Voren stared at the rapidly updating tactical feed. The ship vibrated with restrained power, the humming of weapons charging beneath its skin. Report, she said. Her ops officer, Lieutenant Shaw, responded crisply. All 12 ships in formation. Stealth protocols green. Insertion corridor plotted through the moon's magnetosphere. Minimum sensor exposure. Estimated breach in 9 minutes. Alina nodded. No comms. No hails. We go in silent. We come out with our people. Shaw hesitated. If they resist... Alina's eyes narrowed. Then we stop being polite. The fleet surged forward like a hunting pack. No formation lights. No signals. Just shadows moving with purpose. Aboard the Vreth Dominion, alarms didn't sound until it was too late. The first impact struck like a god's fist. Kinetic rods launched from extreme distance at relativistic speeds. The hull screamed. Armor plates cracked. Deck shattered. The Empire's war protocols engaged, but they were slow. Designed for deterrence, not reaction. Systems expected warning. There was none. On the bridge, Admiral Threx was thrown from his console as the room erupted in sparks. The ship's artificial gravity failed briefly, and for a few seconds, chaos hung weightless. "What hit us?" he barked, struggling to his feet. "Unclear," a technician cried. "No energy signatures. No launches detected. Just impacts." Threx knew then it wasn't a fleet. It was a strike. A message. Below, in the containment level, the children's cells unlocked. Doors slid open silently. The lights flickered, then turned red. Liam stood slowly, confused. Then he saw it, a figure at the far end of the corridor, tall and lean, crouched low with a weapon slung over one shoulder. The figure raised a finger to his lips. Human. The soldier moved like a ghost, slipping from cell to cell, gesturing children to follow. No shouting, no wasted words. Behind him, others emerged, tactical suits, visors down, rifles ready. They moved with terrifying precision, clearing corridors, disabling cameras, planting charges. A rescue operation so surgical it didn't feel real. To Liam, they looked like monsters. Human-shaped but faster, hungrier. When one passed close, he saw something written in chalk across the soldier's chest plate. "Fury is the child of love betrayed." Admiral Threx stormed toward the security core, 3 guards at his flank. His translator sputtered from damage, voice glitching. "Seal the lower levels. Vent them if needed." No response from security decks, "Sir." He shoved the door open and found himself face to face with a human. The woman stood alone, rifle across her back, blood on her knuckles. Her face was bare, not masked, not armored. A scar split her brow. Her eyes, pale gray and empty, met his without flinching. "You," Threx hissed. Alina Voren didn't speak. She didn't have to. She stepped forward and threw the first punch. Threx was fast. Forearms, double joints, enhanced reflexes. But she moved like vengeance incarnate, a blur of rage wrapped in discipline. She ducked under his swing, drove a combat knife into his thigh joint, twisted, then slammed his mandibles against the console. He bellowed and lunged, slashing with his claws. She caught the arm, broke the joint, flipped him onto the floor. The door slammed shut behind her. "Sealed." "Do you know what happens," she said calmly, "when you make a soldier a mother, and then take her child?" He spat acidic fluid that sizzled against her sleeve. She didn't blink. "You find out what war really means." She picked up his fallen plasma pistol and shot him once in each knee. He screamed, and kept screaming. The children were almost clear. The extraction teams moved with ghost-like fluidity, ushering small bodies through blown-open bulkheads and cleared corridors. Some kids clung to the soldiers. Others walked silently. Some held hands. No child was left behind. Outside, the Electo had deployed defensive drones, forming a ring of fire around the boarding point. Empire reinforcements were inbound. 17 ships, fast and armed. Too late. As the last child was evacuated, demolition teams finished planting charges. Inside the ship, Admiral Threx crawled toward a flickering console, blood pooling beneath him. He reached out and froze. Alina Voren stood over him again. This time, she held something small in her hand. A remote. "I could kill you," she said, "but that would be too kind." She pressed the button. The charges detonated in a wave, shredding the ship from the inside out. Aboard the Electo, the children were taken to medical. One by one, soft voices greeted them. Gentle hands checked vitals. It was the first human kindness they'd felt in weeks. Liam sat on a cot, bandaged and tired. His mother knelt before him. They stared at each other for a long time. Then he whispered, "I knew you'd come." She nodded once. I never stopped moving. Behind them, the stars turned red. In the distance, alien ships approached. War was no longer a threat. It was here, and Earth was no longer asking for peace. The first human retaliatory strike was not a fluke. The Empire realized that too late. Within 72 hours of the Vreth Dominion's destruction, 6 more Imperial vessels vanished. 3 were found drifting, airlocks blown open, crews missing. No battle damage, no calls for help, just silence. And sometimes a child drawing scrawled in red crayon on the command deck. The humans left them as warnings. The Galactic Council convened in a panic spiral. The chamber, a vast hollow sphere orbiting the central star of Thalexa, buzzed with ancient protocol and poorly concealed dread. Species from hundreds of systems packed the tiers, speaking over each other in their native tongues, their translators lagging behind. At the heart of the chamber floated Emperor Karix, High Sovereign of the Ordendex, who had ruled uninterrupted for 6 lifespans. His voice boomed like molten stone cracking. The humans have shattered the peace charter. They abducted, tortured, and executed our officials. They annihilated our warship. They broadcast no negotiation, offered no parley, only blood. This cannot be tolerated. But not everyone agreed. Ambassador Viral of the Javak fold, a race of crystalline philosophers, clicked his mandibles. Perhaps we erred. The children. They were prisoners, interrupted Karix. Not citizens. They were collected from an unauthorized colony world. Their status was uncertain. Ambassador Viral did not blink. He couldn't, but his voice dropped. They were children. The silence that followed was heavy. The humans hadn't sent a message. They had sent an answer. Back in soul space, aboard the Earth Alliance Command Station Achilles, General Alina Voren stood in front of the war table. Her hair was bound, her uniform scarred, her expression unreadable. "This isn't just retaliation anymore," she said. "They poked the wrong species. Now they'll learn what humanity does when we stop holding back." Her command staff, a mix of military minds and scientific strategists, stood alert. Every face held a shared understanding. War wasn't coming. It was already inside the house. "Target?" asked Colonel Desmond. Alina tapped the holographic display. "Central relay at Epsilon Sigma 12. It's how they route subspace comms across their inner rim. Take that out, and we blind half their navy." "Defense grid?" asked someone. "Formidable," she admitted. "Orbital mines, heat net satellites, planetary shield. But they build it to stop fleets, not 5. She looked at the team, now gathered around her. 5 people. 1 mission. In out, detonate the node from the inside. Colonel Desmond whistled low. "That's suicide." "No," Alina said. "It's human warfare." They dropped from warp inside a comet trail, their signatures buried in debris. No flare, no broadcast, just a silent vector toward a planet encased in shimmering defense fields. The 5 operators, call signs Bishop, Glaive, Wren, Echo, and Valkyrie, were among the few survivors of Earth's Black Star unit. Ghosts by trade, legends by consequence. Handpicked by Alina because they weren't loyal to Earth's flag. They were loyal to her. On the surface of Sigma 12, beneath a burning sky, the relay station rose like a glass spire impaled into the planet's crust. A fusion of art and violence. 1 kilometer tall, guarded by a division. The team landed 15 kilometers out and moved fast. No drones, no trails. They ran like wolves, silent and relentless. By the time they reached the perimeter wall, the sky behind them was starting to glow. The Empire had spotted something, but it was too late to mobilize. Wren cut the power to the nearest sensor node. Bishop planted a microcharge. The wall blew open without sound. They slipped inside the belly of the relay. Inside, the station was colder than expected. Lights glowed with a bioluminescent pulse. They passed technicians who never saw them. The humans moved between shadows, bypassing sensors, crawling through vents not made for human bodies. They reached the core in 23 minutes. Echo pulled the explosives from his pack. 6 nodes of shaped fusion. Enough to turn the relay into dust and vitrify half the continent. Plant them on the main column, Glaive instructed. Then we punch out through the cooling tower. Ren raised a hand. Contact. 2 floors up. Motion. They froze. Above them, a lift shaft lit up. Unscheduled arrival. Valkyrie peered through her scope. Her breath slowed. It's a child. That stopped everyone cold. The lift opened. It was a child. Human. Maybe 10 years old. Pale. Hair shaved. Wearing a thin uniform with Imperial insignia. He stepped out, blinking at the humans. Bishop whispered, "What the hell is this?" Then more footsteps. Guards, 6 of them. Fully armed. The child turned toward them and screamed, "Run!" The guards raised weapons. The hallway exploded. Not from the humans, but from inside. A fireball engulfed the guards, tearing the corridor into shrapnel. The child stumbled back, coughing but unharmed. Ren grabbed him. "Who are you?" The boy's eyes were wide. "They made us learn codes. Ship codes. Relay codes. They made us memorize everything. They said it was for obedience tests, but I remembered. I made it break. I sabotaged the lift." Glaive stared. "You're one of ours." The boy nodded. "They said you wouldn't come." Glaive knelt. "Well, kid, they were wrong." The team moved faster now. The child clutched against Ren's side. The charges were planted. The countdown began. They reached the tower as the sirens started. Empire troops swarmed the base, but they were late and confused. The humans were ghosts again, moving in smoke, covering each other. Outside, the evac ship descended like a falling knife, rotors screaming, side hatch open. They leapt aboard seconds before the charges detonated. From orbit, the explosion looked like a sun birthing itself. The relay tower fractured upward, a crystalline scream splitting the sky. Shock waves tore through the defenses. Empire fleets scrambled. Systems went dark. In the chamber of the Galactic Council, the news hit like a plague. Emperor Carix crushed a data slate between his claws. "We should have destroyed Earth when we had the chance." Ambassador Viral remained still. "You tried." Carix turned toward him. "And you defend them?" "Observe them," Viral replied. "And I learn." Carix seethed. "They will burn for this." "You all will." But Viral was already turning away. "No, Emperor. I think we will all burn if we continue to pretend they're like us." Back aboard the Achilles, the team disembarked in silence. Alina Voren stood at the platform, watching the boy step down. He looked around nervously, unsure. She bent to one knee. "Name?" He hesitated. "They call me Subject 93. She offered her hand. "That's not a name. What do you want to be called?" He stared at her. Then quietly, "I don't know." "You will," she said. "You're home now." Behind them, the stars shifted. War was now endless. But Earth had decided. This time, they weren't going to wait for the enemy to knock. The capital of the Galactic Empire didn't scream. It surrendered, silently, as if ashamed of its own arrogance. Once, its silver towers shimmered like celestial spires, untouched by war. Now, they shuddered under the weight of incoming drop pods, black capsules screaming through the atmosphere, slicing past defensive grids as though they weren't even there. Alina Voren watched the descent from orbit, standing at the edge of the command deck aboard the human dreadnought Eidolon. Her reflection in the glass looked like a ghost, draped in matte black armor, helmet clutched in one hand, her other palm resting against the hilt of a vibroblade she hadn't drawn in years. She hadn't come to conquer. She had come to finish what the Empire began. Pods landing in all sectors, reported her second-in-command, Captain Yarrow. Minimal resistance. They weren't expecting ground incursion this deep. They should have, Alina murmured. They stole children. Yarrow said nothing more. There was no need. Alina turned from a window and descended into the war room. A hollow map of the capital bloomed open before her. Hundreds of red dots blinking. Enemy strongholds marked with decreasing urgency. They were collapsing faster than projected. Not because the Empire was weak, but because they had never fought us. Not truly. She tapped the central spire. This is where they're holding the children? Yarrow nodded. Confirmed. Vaulted facility beneath the Imperial Palace. Genetic keys, biometric locks, neural net defenses. But we've cracked harder. Then we go in quiet, she said. No orbital strikes. No shock bombardment. We do this ourselves. He looked her in the eye. Personal. Alina nodded once. I want them to know it was me. The transport cut through the planet's blackened sky like a blade of night. No escort. No fireworks. Just purpose. As the vessel breached the palace perimeter, anti-air systems flickered to life, but it was already too late. EMP blasts detonated mid-air, blanketing the zone in silence. By the time the guards raised their weapons, Alina and her team had already landed, shadows slipping through the chaos. The entrance to the vault wasn't a door. It was a monument, 10 meters tall, adorned in alien symbols etched to intimidate. To the Empire, it was a symbol of power. To Alina, it was nothing more than a tombstone. She reached it first, pressing her palm to the cold, alloy surface. A hidden panel slid open, scanning her biometrics. Not hers, exactly, someone else's. One of the Imperial ministers captured weeks ago, kept alive just long enough to serve this moment. The system blinked green. Move, she said. Her team poured in behind her, sweeping corridors with clinical precision. Silence reigned. No alarms. No panic. Just a cold, sterile hum, like a morgue pretending to be a sanctuary. They reached the vault door. This one didn't budge to genetic signatures. It responded to only one thing: sacrifice. Someone has to stay behind, said Yarrow, recognizing the ancient Imperial protocol. Blood for blood, fail-safe. This door was built with cruelty in mind. Alina drew her blade. Then let's use their cruelty against them. She sliced the palm of the captured minister, letting his blood drip onto the receiver. A moment later, the vault shuddered and groaned, unfolding like the petals of a mechanical flower. Inside, they found them, 72 children caged in stasis pods, floating in translucent amber. Alive, safe, unconscious. Alina stepped inside, her breath catching. She scanned every face, hunting for one, his. Her son, row by row, her fingers brushed against glass until... There, Rowan. His tiny face had changed. Thinner, paler, but it was him. His heartbeat registered on the panel above the pod. She pressed her forehead against the glass, eyes closed. For a second, everything paused, years of restraint cracking beneath the weight of this singular moment. She had him again. A muffled noise echoed from the far end of the vault. Her eyes snapped open. The noise repeated, a voice. They weren't alone. Alina turned fast, motioning to Yarrow. Guard them. I'll handle it. The corridor led to a smaller chamber, sealed off by a transparent force field. Inside stood a single figure, an alien in crimson robes flanked by dead guards. The High Chancellor of the Empire. You've come, he said, almost reverently. The War Lady of Earth. I didn't come for you, Alina replied. No, he said, hands raised, but you should hear what I have to say. She stepped closer, blade in hand. Speak. One sentence. That's all you get. He didn't flinch. You've already won. The Empire falls. But there are worse forces in the galaxy, watching Earth now, waiting, She tilted her head. Good. Let them come. He smiled sadly. You'll regret waking the old powers. Alina turned without answering. Let them know who woke them. She left the Chancellor standing alone, surrounded by the stench of his own failure. Moments later, her team lifted the pods onto grav sleds, gliding the children to the surface. Not a single one was left behind. By the time the sun rose, the capital was silent. Human banners hung over broken spires, not as a mark of conquest, but remembrance. Back aboard the Eidolon, Rowan awoke. His small hand reached up, brushing against Alina's cheek. Mama, she broke. Tears fell, not of rage but release. She pulled him close, whispering nothing and everything into his hair. He smelled like home, like life before all of this. You're safe, she said. I've got you. I've always had you. And for the first time in 3,000 years, Earth didn't just fight, it forgave. Weeks later, the Galactic Empire ceased to exist. Its systems were dismantled, its laws rewritten by those who had once been ignored. Humanity didn't claim the throne. They left it empty. As a warning, Alina returned to Earth with Rowan, vanishing into the quiet edges of the world. No titles, no parades, just a small house on the coast, where laughter could echo off the waves. People asked her later, how did you destroy an empire? She always said the same thing. I didn't destroy it. I reminded it what fear looks like. And when Rowan ran through the fields, wild and free, the stars watched. Because they knew now what the empire had learned too late. Humanity doesn't forget, especially when you take their children.